We talk a lot about equipment financing here, rates and terms and all the ins and outs of structuring deals.
Right.
But then you sent over this piece from the Red Card from September 19th.
Right.
And it got me thinking, we need to hit the brakes for a second.
Yeah.
And talk about something a little bit less savory.
Yeah.
Fraud.
It's always out there lurking under the surface. Yeah. And it's interesting. This article in particular really kind of highlights the audacity and the evolution of some of these schemes. We're not talking about your grandfather's equipment financing fraud.
Right.
This is some high level stuff that they're talking about.
So give me the rundown.
It's really interesting stuff.
What kind of schemes are we talking about?
Well, some of the classics never go out of style.
Okay.
Double financing is a big one.
Right.
I mean, essentially, you've got somebody who's taking out multiple loans on the same piece of equipment, hoping to skip town before anybody can connect the dots.
Right.
And, leaving a lot of lenders holding the bag when that happens.
Yeah, real tangled web there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big tangled web.
But one that really stood out to me was this idea of non-existent equipment fraud. I mean, that sounds like something straight out of a movie.
It really does. It's like a fictional, sort of a fictional crime.
Yeah.
I mean, picture this. You've got a vendor and a lessee working together, right? They invent a piece of equipment. Okay. Something that doesn't exist.
Wow.
Right.
Like a phantom excavator or something?
A phantom excavator. They've got forged documents.
Wow.
Maybe they've even created some sort of fake online trail.
Right.
To make it look like this thing is real.
Right.
Secure the funding, and then they vanish.
And the lender is left holding nothing.
They're left holding nothing.
Yeah.
They're left holding a hole in the ground where that excavator was supposed to be.
Wow. That's next level.
It's really something.
It really is. But beyond those sort of almost theatrical scenarios, right?
Yeah.
What about the things that are a little bit more difficult to detect, a little bit more insidious?
The ones that are harder to see coming.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The ones that are harder to see coming.
Like undisclosed side agreements, where on paper everything looks completely above board and legitimate.
Right.
But behind the scenes, there are these arrangements that really change the whole risk profile of the deal.
It's like a hidden handshake deal or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That completely changes the game.
Wow. It does feel like we're talking about something that goes beyond just the financial aspect of this.
It really does. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
Equipment financing, it all comes down to trust. It's the belief that the information you're getting is accurate.
Right.
It's complete. And when that trust is broken, it can have a real ripple effect throughout the entire industry. Lenders become wary. Deals get bogged down, in layers of scrutiny. Yeah. And it can really make it difficult for legitimate businesses to operate.
So with all of these new and creative ways to defraud people, how do we as an industry protect ourselves?
Well,
how do we navigate this?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And this article actually does a pretty good job of laying out some red flags.
Yeah. It's almost like a crash course in fraud detection.
It is. It's like a primer for, the average person to say, okay, here are some things to watch out for.
Right.
But it's not just about memorizing a list.
Right.
It's about understanding the why behind the warning signs.
Yeah.
For example, they talk about pressure and urgency as being a common tactic. Okay. Fraudsters, they thrive on chaos. They want to rush you into making a decision that you wouldn't otherwise make.
So if I'm getting like a late night email or a text message, act now or miss out.
Exactly.
That's a red flag.
It could be. I mean, legitimate businesses can have urgent needs, especially in a fast-paced environment like this.
Right.
The key is to differentiate between genuine urgency and manufactured pressure.
How do you tell the difference?
Well, ask yourself.
Okay.
Are they pushing for a decision without proper due diligence?
Okay.
Are they being evasive when you ask for clarification?
Okay.
These are the telltale signs.
So you have to kind of trust your gut.
You do. You have to trust your gut. Yeah. And you have to be willing to walk away if something feels off.
One of the things that they mentioned in here that stood out to me was verification difficulties.
Yeah.
And specifically, they were talking about businesses that only use cell phones.
Okay.
And I thought, come on, it's 2024.
Right.
who isn't using a cell phone?
You're right. It's not uncommon these days to be dealing with businesses that primarily operate using mobile devices.
Right.
But it's all about context. A cell phone alone, probably not a deal breaker, but it's a piece of the puzzle. Let's say you're trying to verify a business address, and the only contact number you have is a cell phone that goes straight to voicemail. And then you dig a little deeper, and you find that their website was registered just a few months ago. And there's no real online presence to speak of. Suddenly that cell phone
becomes a bigger issue.
Becomes a little bit more of a red flag.
So it's not about jumping to conclusions. It's about looking at the big picture.
It's about connecting the dots. Looking for patterns and trusting your instincts.
So we've talked about the schemes, the psychology, the red flags. But the million-dollar question is, how do we fight back? And it seems like the article puts a lot of faith in technology. It's like we're entering the Matrix or something. This whole world of algorithms and ones and zeros.
That's pretty wild.
Fighting financial crime.
It really is. And the thing is, it's becoming increasingly important. Because the sheer volume of data that we're dealing with in the equipment financing world, it's just impossible for humans to keep up. To manually review every transaction, every application,
invoice,
every piece of data. It's just not feasible. So that's where AI comes in. AI can analyze those massive data sets and uncover those subtle links that we might miss.
The article was talking about how AI can kind of connect the dots between deals that on the surface don't seem related.
Exactly. They can see patterns that we wouldn't even know to look for.
Like maybe a certain vendor that keeps popping up in an unexpected location or something like that.
Exactly. Or maybe there's a network of shell companies that all have similar addresses or use the same registered agent. AI can pick up on those red flags in a heartbeat.
So it's like having
That's incredibly powerful.
A superpowered detective working behind the scenes 24/7.
That's a great way to put it. It's like having a digital detective that never sleeps.
But is there a risk that we become overly reliant on that?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, it's very tempting to think that technology can solve all of our problems. But it's important to remember that AI is just a tool. It's a very powerful tool. But it's still just a tool. It's not a magic bullet.
And the article actually does a good job, I think, of making that clear.
It emphasizes that human element.
They were talking specifically about site visits.
Site visits are still crucial.
And it almost seems antiquated in a way.
It seems old-fashioned, doesn't it?
You think with Zoom and everything else that...
in the age of virtual meetings.
You wouldn't need to do that, but...
You would think that we could do it all remotely. But there's really no substitute for seeing an operation firsthand. Meeting the people. Kicking the tires, so to speak.
It's like they say you can learn a lot by looking somebody in the eye.
Exactly. You can get a feel for someone's character by interacting with them face to face.
It's hard to fake that.
It is. It's much harder to maintain a facade when you're standing right there in front of somebody.
And the last thing I wanted to touch on was this idea of training.
Oh, absolutely. Training is essential.
Which kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about.
It does.
You can have the best technology in the world. But if your people aren't trained to use it properly.
Exactly. If your team isn't equipped to spot those red flags, then the whole system falls apart.
So it's about creating that culture of awareness. Really empowering your employees to...
Absolutely. Give them the knowledge.
To speak up.
The tools and the confidence to speak up.
If something seems off.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, it's been really interesting taking a deep dive into...
It has been fascinating.
The world of equipment financing fraud.
I
think we covered a lot of ground.
We did.
We talked about the schemes.
We talked about the red flags.
The red flags that assign that, like... The psychology behind it.
The technology.
The technology. The importance of human intuition.
And most importantly, the importance of staying vigilant.
Absolutely. Because ultimately, knowledge is our best defense.
100%. The more we know, the better equipped we are to protect ourselves.
Well said.
So stay informed, stay vigilant.
Keep asking questions.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.